Hello, dear friends. I have been asked many times about this issue, but the answer has been known for many years, and no country dares to acknowledge that its arsenal is deactivated. Opinion piece. No Armageddon. There will be no atomic war. All attempts have failed. The many will defeat the few. The planet is intervened and protected. God will not allow the use of nuclear weapons, confirmed by former Air Force officers. There will be evolution of love and peaceful coexistence. Women are better investors than men. Spain's deficit will be the largest among European economies. Fed enters the debt trap and oil soars. Let's start. Although false rumors of a third nuclear world war persist, I must remember that Armageddon will never happen because there is a divine decree that prevents it, and because our planet is intervened, surrounded and protected by advanced civilizations. In fact, many attempts to use nuclear weapons have been aborted, and arsenals have been deactivated and paralyzed. It is clear that the creator of the universe will not permit the hostile use of nuclear weapons on this planet or in space. There is a limit to free will, which is not to allow the destruction of the planet. This is not new, because it has been known for many years. Nothing has changed since 2012 with respect to the promise of our star family that was also made many years before. The promise is not something they make one day and forget the next. They continue to patrol our skies and will do so until the threat with ascension has passed. Armageddon is the biblical term that appears in the book of Revelation, chapter 16, verse 16. Although the term is of Christian origin, various religions and cultures use it to refer generally to the end of the world or the end of the time through catastrophes. Testimonies. According to Matthew Ward, in quotes, the assurance we gave comes from the Creator. Souls have been harmed by nuclear explosions in space, and in decreeing that it will never happen again, the Creator made this one exception to his gift of free will. Anyone who attempts such an explosion cannot succeed. In this universe, God authorized all spiritually and technologically advanced civilizations to cause nuclear warhead detonation failures on launched missiles, and on Earth's behalf alone, this has been accomplished approximately a dozen times. In quotes again, it is coming to an end very soon, the silent war over who controls Earth and her people, and you will be relieved to know that the threat hanging over your head has been removed. The hierarchy of light has kept a constant watch over you all, and made sure that matters didn't get out of hand. Salusa of Sirius, through Mike Kinsey, described how attempts to explode nuclear bombs have been tried and failed. In quotes again, although attempts have been made to start another world war, they have failed, and we will continue with this. Our technology is such that we have total control over what happens. The authorities have been informed that we will not allow the use of nuclear weapons and that we oppose any form of aggression. Therefore, in quotes again, there is no point in continuing war games and engaging in all the posturing that inflames the situation. Our patience is wearing thin, and if things do not improve, we will use our authority to stop all attempts to engage in war moves. In quotes, we are often forced to be in such a position when our orders are ignored, and we only give them where we are authorized to intervene. Most often it is when nuclear weapons are about to be used, and all your governments have been warned that we will not allow it to happen. Also the Celestials. Not only the Galactics, but also the Celestials have offered their assurances. Here is Archangel Michael. Now, once again, in quotes again, your planet, as this is happening, there is a threat of reaction of war. Now, we want you to know that it is very, very rare because of our agreements and because of universal law that we interfere in such matters. But we wish to suggest you very strongly that as this reorganization takes place, which was so beautifully marked by revolution and evolution in so many countries, it will not be allowed to deteriorate into war. You and I, in quotes, and many in all walks of life have worked too hard. We are too close to that breakthrough to allow such interference to occur. Therefore, no one need fear that something akin to World War III will break out on the planet. It will not be allowed by forces far more powerful and benign than we are. The momentum toward consciousness change is too great to be derailed by the actions of the recalcitrant. A revolution of love and peaceful coexistence is destined to emerge on Earth in the foreseeable future. What a surprise awaits us when we meet the stellar humans who have prevented this planet from being destroyed by nuclear pollution, oil spills, chemtrails, human-caused earthquakes, and hurricanes, and world war. Military confirmation. Former Air Force officers says it is took control of nuclear weapons. Top U.S. Army brass claim they witnessed nuclear weapon systems being manipulated. They are also ready to present evidence that the incidents date back several decades. The UFOs deactivated weapon systems at nuclear bases and even began activating missiles by initiating launch sequences before later shutting them down, according to Esoteric Paranormal World. Former Air Force officer Robert Salas was the acting commander of a subway launch control facility assigned to Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana on March 24, 1967. He explained that his 10 intercontinental ballistic missiles became inoperable. He informed his superiors and tried to get the Army to respond to the UFO activity. However, the response was to say nothing. He obeyed orders, but Salas discovered that only 8 days earlier, on March 16, 1967, a similar incident occurred at another missile launch control facility. Similar cases have occurred in other countries. 4 former U.S. Air Force captains will I talked about these cases of UFOs interference and revealed these classified government documents In 2010, they co-sponsored with UFO researcher Robert Hastings the first conference on UFOs and nuclear weapons in an attempt to get Congress to publicly address this and other mysterious meddling. In 2020, he ran for Congress thinking it would make it easier to reveal the truth, but lost in the primary. Breaking news. Fed enters debt trap as oil soars. The Fed has set up a trap for itself for when they raise interest rates to stop the inflation they have created, and it could crash the stock market. If they don't raise rates, it would accelerate inflation, according to David Lifschultz. Inflation accelerates to 5.4% and put the Feds on the ropes. Inflation is accelerating again in the US after rising to 5.4% in September, up 0.1% from August. Inflation is becoming a headache for the Fed, which is seeing prices continue to exceed its forecast and move away from its 2% medium-term target. Powell is in a bind. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's inflation conundrum is also a political headache. The Consumer Price Index rose 5.4% year-on-year in September. Fed unveils plan to scale back bond purchases. The Federal Reserve signaled Wednesday that it may begin reducing its crisis-era support for the economy by the middle of the next month, and a growing number of its policymakers are worried that high inflation may persist longer than previously thought. Stocks bounce on economic optimism. Wall Street rose Wednesday in choppy trading as investors saw an imminent end to ultra-loose monetary policy as a vote of confidence in the economy, while yields on 2-year Treasury bonds rose to 18 months highs on bets that policy tightening is in sight. Dow Jones falls on inflation. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 150 points Wednesday as it beat estimates, a key inflation gauge. The stock market is turning choppy. S&P 500 Nasdaq snap 3rd-session streak. Stocks close mostly higher Wednesday after minutes from the Federal Reserve's latest policy meeting pointed to imminent plans by the central bank to reduce its $120 billion in monthly bond purchases. The stock market is unsteady. Farming season is about to begin. If analysts continue to cut earnings estimates, the stock market could take a significant hit. Third quarter earnings estimates as a whole fell 0.8% between September 3rd and October 8th, according to data track. Women are better investors than men. Earnings generated by women investors outperform those of men. This is revealed in a study conducted by Fidelity. JP Morgan earnings led the week for bank stocks. JP Morgan Chase reported better than expected third quarter earnings early Wednesday, kicking off a big week for bank financials. JP Morgan shares have gained more than 10% in recent weeks, thanks to a rise in 10-year Treasury yields. X22 report. Corporations around the world are beginning to realize that the new Green Deal will not benefit their company or workers. People are now experiencing inflation. It is at its highest rate in 13 years. Yellen pushes the idea that policing people's transactions will catch billionaires evading taxes. Biden enlists Target and Walmart to fix bottlenecks threatening holiday sales. The corporate chairman on Wednesday asked the private sector to help ease the supply chain gridlock that threatens to disrupt the holiday season, and said the White House plans a national review of the closed system. G20 finance chiefs back tax deal. Finance leaders from major G20 economies on Wednesday endorsed the global deal to revamp corporate taxes and pledged to maintain fiscal support for their economies while keeping an eye on inflation. Government suspends rates on migrants at workplaces. The US government announced Tuesday that there will be no more raids on workplaces looking for undocumented migrants, and will focus more on employers and respect for labor laws to prevent the exploitation of migrants. Hollywood workers threaten to go on strike next Monday. The entertainment industry's main union, IATSE, announced Wednesday that its nearly 60,000 members will go on strike next Monday if it doesn't reach an agreement with Hollywood studios to improve their working conditions. Cryptocurrencies. US becomes biggest Bitcoin mining center after China crackdown. The US has overtaken China to account for the largest share of Bitcoin mining in the world. Data released by the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance in Britain showed record growth predicted for Elon Musk's favorite cryptocurrency. Crypto analyst Justin Bennett predicts a Dogecoin appreciation of more than 1,000%. In quotes, Doge is doing what it does best. The last two breakouts generated gains of 1,000% or more. The last round of consolidation lasted 3 times longer than the pattern that preceded the April breakout, which was profitable at 1,200%, explains the crypto analyst. A Bank of England official explains why the crypto market poses a strong risk to global finance. The total value of the cryptocurrency market has tripled over the course of 2021. The cryptocurrency market is growing so fast that at any moment, and presumably soon, an eventual crash in the price of Bitcoin could have a knock-on effect on the wider sector of the economy. That's the view of a senior representative of the UK Central Bank, John Cunliffe. Europe. Real estate bubble risk accelerates in Europe. The risk of real estate bubbles across Europe has accelerated as the crisis has triggered a global surge in housing spending that was accelerated by aggressive central bank stimulus. European automakers face a bottleneck in raw materials for electric vehicle batteries. Major automakers such as Volkswagen, Daimler, and Stellantis have been racing to secure battery cell supplies in Europe, but they may face a bigger challenge as they look to go electric, finding enough raw materials for batteries. Volkswagen could lose 30,000 jobs in Germany as it transitions to electric cars. Volkswagen has declared its goal that all its cars sold in Europe will be electric by 2035. The German firm calculates that For this to be possible, its last vehicles with internal combustion engines would then be manufactured between 2033 and 2035. This electric transition could cost the company the elimination of up to 30,000 jobs if it is too slow. Energy crisis. The energy crisis continues. The price of fossil fuels has skyrocketed worldwide. Some commodity professionals refer to this current situation as an energy crisis, which could have far-reaching implications for the world as it attempts to wean itself off oil and transition to renewable energy sources. Home heating bills expected to rise. Consumers will spend more to heat their homes this winter than last year due to rising energy prices. Heating bills will soar this winter as the global price of natural gas, heating oil, and other fossil fuels rise. The escalation of gas prices breaks all records and rises by 30.5% on average in Europe. The average price of gas in Europe markets stood at 84.82 euros per megawatt hour between 25 September and 8 October this year, an increase of almost 20 euros compared to the previous period. No cancellation of Christmas in Britain. The UK said Wednesday that people should shop as normal for Christmas and there would be no shortage of gifts after containers of toys and electrical goods were debated from the country's largest port. European Commission to investigate possible violations in the energy market. In particular, the body proposes to investigate possible anti-competitive behavior in the energy market and to ask the European Securities and Markets Authority to further improve the monitoring of developments in the carbon market. European Union calls for investment in renewable energy as gas prices rise. European countries should step up investments in renewable energy sources as gas and electricity prices rise, the European Commission said. Rising gas prices in Western Europe are due to its reliance on wind farms. A rise in the cost of gas that has seen household and industrial bills soar is due to a shortfall in electricity generation, not because Russia is squeezing supplies in any way, President Vladimir Putin argued. Russia does not plan to supply Europe with more gas than contracts provide for. Russia does not intend to supply Europe with more gas than existing contracts provide for, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said. Putin says Russia ready to supply Europe with gas. Russia is ready to deliver all the natural gas Europe needs, President Vladimir Putin said, blaming the continent's current energy crisis on flawed policies rather than a lack of supply. Putin sees European gas crisis as Russia's golden opportunity. Russia is ready to deliver as much gas as Europe needs and is ready for dialogue with the European Union on stabilizing the market, Putin said Wednesday at the Russian Energy Week conference. Putin says US is killing dollar as a reserve currency by weaponizing sanctions and uncontrolled money printing, fueling inflation. Washington itself is undermining the dollar as the world's reserve currency by using it as an instrument for sanctions abroad, while increasing national debt and inflating at home, the Russian president said. Russia is excluded from meeting of countries to combat cybercrime. Russia was not invited to attend a US-led virtual meeting of 30 countries aimed at combating the growing threat of ransomware and other cybercrime. Facebook's new smart glasses could be an espionage tool. Russia's top national security agency has expressed a number of concerns about Facebook's flagship wearable touch device, saying the camera-equipped glasses designed in partnership with Ray-Ban, they could be used for espionage. Afghanistan. Europe proposes billion package to support Afghans. The European Commission on Tuesday proposed a support package for Afghans beyond humanitarian aid worth around 1 billion euros in order to address their most urgent needs inside the country and in neighboring states to which they have been displaced. Putin warns that Islamic State terrorists are grouping in Afghanistan and could destabilize neighboring countries. The president of Russia warned that after the coming to power to the Taliban in Afghanistan, several terrorist groups linked to the Islamic State are grouping in this South Asian country, which could destabilize the situation in neighboring nations. Spain. Spain's deficit will be the highest among European economies. Spain's deficit will remain above 4% until at least 2026. Not only would it be the largest deficit among the major European economies, but it would also be well above them. France would be the second largest economy with the highest deficit in 2026, almost 1 point below Spain. Companies will not be able to have more than 15% on their workforce on temporary contracts. The Spanish government has proposed to the social partners to limit temporary contracts to 15% of the workforce, and reported by UGT after the meeting for the modernization of the labor market. In addition, temporary employment agencies will no longer be able to hire workers on a temporary basis to be assigned to their clients, and they will have to maintain an indefinite relationship with the employees they assign. The banking industry redoubles its efforts to attract new customers and starts to give money away. Traditional banks focus their strategy on attracting new customers for their payroll accounts. Large banks such as Santander and Sabadell are losing accounts to the neobanks. Therefore, they are increasing their efforts to attract new customers. If they used to give away pans of pots and pans to guarantee salary accounts, they are now opting to give money directly to users who decide to sign up with them for a period of permanence, according to Álvaro Moreno. Spanish America. 100,000 disappeared in Mexico. The worst year was 2019. During those 12 months, 22,239 disappearances were reported in Mexico. It is the highest figure in history, and although thereafter the trend was downward, the humanitarian tragedy doesn't cease. The crisis is reflected in the record of almost 100,000 missing persons, which confirms that the country suffers one of the most serious human rights crises on a global scale. State of emergency in the south of Chile. Chilean President Sebastián Piñera decreed a state of emergency on October 12th in the so-called South Macrozone, which included the provinces of Biobío and Arauco, Biobío region, Cautín and Malleco, Araucanía region. Different Mapuche organizations in the area defend ancestral territorial claims of the Mapuche people. Chile applies the largest interest rate increase in 20 years. The Central Bank of Chile made a historic interest rate hike to 2.75% and agreed to an increase of 125 basis points in the interest rate. Earthquake shakes Argentina. A 5.4 magnitude earthquake shook Argentina. The earthquake was registered at 7:55 Greenwich Mean Time. The epicenter was located 3 kilometers northeast of the city of El Calafate. The focus was at a depth of 15 kilometers. Cyber attack shuts down Ecuador's largest bank. A cyber attack has disrupted ATMs and online banking operations at private financial giant Banco Pichincha. The network was attacked over the weekend and the bank shut down other systems. A Canadian company announces the construction of a mega farm to mine bitcoins in Argentina. Bitfarms, a multinational company dedicated to cryptocurrency mining, announced that it plans to install a major plant with 55,000 pieces of equipment in Argentina to create digital currencies at low cost, as the company expands its business to different countries. Miami, the paradise of the richest investors in Latin America. Since mid-2020, the richest people from Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador have been shaking up the real estate market in Miami. As the global economy collapsed, the Hispanic American elite began to invest aggressively in luxury apartments and secure businesses. Middle East. Turkish leader falls to record low after Erdogan fires 3 more central bankers. We have lost count of how many central bankers Turkey's authoritarian boss has fired when they don't follow economic theory, according to which cutting interest rates is the way to reduce inflation, not the other way around. On Wednesday, President Erdogan fired 3 members of the central bank's interest rate setting committee in a midnight decree. The move sent the lira plunging to a record low. Israel doesn't rule out using force against Iran. US and Israel weigh the Plan B or B plan for dealing with Iran if it doesn't return to negotiations to save the 2015 nuclear deal. They are studying other options if diplomacy fails, which could range from increased sanctions to covert or military action. New crisis in Lebanon. Growing tension over a judicial investigation into last year's Beirut port explosion threatens to push Lebanon into another political crisis, testing the new government of Prime Minister Najib Mikati as it struggles to pull the country out of economic collapse. Dubai Expo kicks off the world's biggest show. Dubai Expo 2020 is finally underway. Dubbed the world's greatest show, the city of Dubai will welcome some 25 million visitors from around the world for 182 days. 8 months later than originally planned, Dubai Expo 2020 has opened its door to the world under the theme Connecting Minds, Creating the Future. It is the world's largest event of this scale. China. Evergrande defaults on $148 million in interest payments, sending China's markets plummeting. High-yield bond markets were rocked amid worsening financial pressure on the Asian country's construction industry. Another Chinese real estate company will not pay its bonds on time. Chinese real estate company Cynic Holdings became the latest company in the sector to announce that it will not be able to pay its obligations to its offshore bondholders on time due to a lack of liquidity. Curious. Captain Kirk has already traveled to the stars. William Shatner's Star Trek's Captain Kirk and one of the science fiction's most recognizable characters, became a real-life space traveler Wednesday on Blue Origin's second-named mission. "It was amazing," said the 90-year-old Canadian actor, who was moved to tears after spending 11 minutes in space. The destruction of the Amazon would bring a global apocalypse once its guardians, millions of indigenous people of the Amazon basin, are fighting a battle against the clock to save this rainforest that holds 20% of the planet's fresh water and avoid a global apocalypse. Leading the way is Venezuelan Gregorio Mirabal with his crown of red and yellow feathers and his battle cry, "Enough is enough. If the jungle disappears, this world is on fire. The temperature rises," warns Mirabal, 54, in the Ecuadorian jungle village of Union Base, a 5-hour drive from Quito. Beer was already being drunk and blue cheese eaten in Europe 2,700 years ago. Thanks to the study of an ancient fecal samples in Austrian salt mines, a team of researchers has found that beer was already being drunk and blue cheese eaten in Austria 2,700 years ago. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.